Yesterday we learned in the Dvar Malchut that the Rebbe made note of a very interesting occasion that occurrence that happened in the world. And that is that all of the nations of the world, they all met together, especially the United States and Russia. And they decided that they were going to limit and eventually eliminate weapons of war. This is in the time when Bush was the president. This is 1992. They all met in the United Nations, and they all made a decision, and they said that there could be the inspectors could come, and that they had a free will, and they would show them anything they wanted to see, and everyone was going to limit the amount of weapons, and utilize that money for agriculture and for progress, for education, etc. And the Rebbe said this was a very amazing thing that happened. Okay, now we can say, okay, good, it was amazing when it happened then, but the whole thing fell apart. The whole business fell apart. We see the situation of the world now, right? It's not that everybody's clamoring for war, and everybody's on everybody else's borders and everybody else's neck and everybody else's the threatening and yelling and screaming, and everybody's being threatened. Everybody in the world feels threatened. And there's this, so the whole thing fell apart. So what's the Rebbe making a big deal about? Well, the answer to that, I think, is very, very simple. The same thing that God took the Jews out of Egypt, right? The whole thing fell apart. The Jews went out of Egypt. They worshiped the golden calf. That doesn't minimize in any way the fact that they went out of Egypt, that they brought redemption into the world. That redemption became not just a possibility, but an actuality. It was brought into the world. The same thing with the Holy Temple. The Holy Temple was built. First temple was destroyed. Second temple was destroyed. Right? That's it. Of course not. And the Jewish people were saying that the first temple, the second temple, that was a preparation for the third temple. And all these unexplainable, terrible tragedies that have been happening for the last thousands of years, and all these bizarre religions claiming that they are the true Judaism and that they are the this, right? All these other terrible, sick, and destructive things that are being happening in the world. Okay, it's a question, 100%. Big question, tremendous question, why these things are happening, but in no way minimizes the importance of the Holy Temple or the going out of Egypt or the fact that all these people met together in the United Nations, and all of the nations genuinely, they genuinely had their eyes toward peace and to harmony and to productivity and to eliminate this. So because it happened, so the Rebbe is trying to tell us, so two things are happening over here. First of all, the Rebbe is trying to tell us the tremendous importance of what there was. Number one, what happened. And secondly, and maybe even more important, the Rebbe is making it important. The Rebbe is making this event that occurred in 1992, he's making it eternal. He's making it the door to the future redemption, where we see that it is not only possible, but actual, that everyone in the world will get along, and that everyone will value the differences between each and every one. That makes the world a more beautiful and harmonious place when there's different instruments, right? An orchestra is playing, it has 100 instruments. What if it has 1,000 instruments and they're all playing the same music? Fantastic. And what if it has 1,000,000 instruments and they're playing the same? What if there are 9 billion instruments and they're all playing the same music? They're playing each one his own part. Not only does everybody enjoy it, but even more, everybody's actually involved and experiencing. We're not just sitting in the crowd and listening. Everyone is, this is something which the Rebbe says is happening. And it's a process that's happening. There's ups and downs and things like that. Don't ask me to explain it. I can't explain it. I mean, maybe I could explain it, but the chances are 99.99% that I'll be wrong. But for sure, without any doubt, this is a preparation for the Mashiach. And also all the crazy stuff that's happening now is obviously somehow preparation for the Mashiach. If for no other way, then the whole world is affected, right? This whole corona thing, which is, it's 98% bluff. I mean, there is certainly a disease, but all of the lockdowns, and they have to give it to children, and everybody has to wear masks. The masks don't help. Everybody knows masks, they can't help. It's impossible. Everyone in the world, they're all afraid, or they're against it, they're angry, or they're for, or they're threatened, and they're being threatened, and everyone in the world is affected. I don't know if there's ever been such a thing in the history of the world, as that everyone in the world is either afraid or making a declaration, I'm not going to be afraid, or I'm not going to. And that's what Moshiach is going to do. Moshiach is, everyone in the world is going to be affected. Everyone in the world. And here the Rebbe is showing that it is possible. And in fact, it happened, that everyone in the world, beginning with the leaders, have their eyes toward peace. They have their eyes toward benefiting all mankind. They have their eyes toward appreciation of differences. That the differences between human beings and the differences between nations and differences between races and difference between this is a tremendously precious and valuable thing. And that's what was begun. Says the Rebbe, it was begun here in 1992, when all the nations all got together and they all decided there's going to be peace. Let's see if we can even add on, says the Rebbe. If we can even add on, that the importance of this, the relevance of this occasion, this began the work of the Mashiach, namely world peace. This is also in the details. Hamakom vazman. What was the place that all these world leaders met? That to make this decision of that there was going to be the end of war, the end of warfare, the end of weapons of destruction. Where was the place? The place that this all happened was a special place, that all of the countries have decided that they were going to make one place, that there was going to be proxy. Every country would have their representatives there. Namely, the United Nations is B'Medina Zu, is in the same country and in the same city, the same country and the same city of the state and the city where the previous Lubavitcher Rebbe set up his headquarters. It's called Beit Rabbeinu Shebabavel, the house of the leader of the Jews in exile. This is in a Gemara in Tainit. Here it was. Oh, I'm sorry, it's not. In Megillah. Oh yeah, I just finished reading it. It's a Gemara in Megillah. Beit Rabbeinu Shebabavel. What does it mean, Beit Rabbeinu Shebabavel? The Rebbe is going to make a very big thing of this. Beit Rabbeinu Shebabavel. It says that the Jewish people, when they were in the land of Israel, the Holy Temple was in Israel. Now the Jewish people are scattered all over the world. There is one central synagogue that from this, all of the inspiration for Judaism is spread out to the whole entire world. And there's a lot of beautiful synagogues in the world, but the only synagogue that there is in the world that from it comes out teaching to inspire all of the Jews in the world, which is directed, that's the purpose, to come to all of the Jews in the world, not just intellectual Jews, not just, and there is the 770, the place of the Lubavitcher Rebbe. The previous Lubavitcher Rebbe set up his place in America because that's where the majority of Jews were. Maybe they still are, I don't know. And in the place which in this country where the majority of Jews are, this one synagogue, which is devoted totally to spreading out Judaism to all the Jews in the world. This is the Chabad headquarters. It's called Beit Rabbeinu Shababavel, Beit Chayinu. This is the house of our life. Beit HaKnesset, it's a synagogue, and Beit HaMidrash, a place of learning, a place of Torah, a place of Gemilat Chasadim, of the previous Lubavitcher Rebbe, Shebachar Bo, that he chose this place, the Makom Mirkazi, for a central main synagogue, that from it, Teitzei Torah will come out, Torah teachings, and the well springs of the Torah outside to all the ends of the world. That then there will be what it says, then really it will be in a permanent way what began in 1992, that there won't be any more weapons of destruction. That's what the Isaiah's prophecy. It's like this: when the Nasi Darenu, when the previous Lubavitcher Rebbe came to the lower part of the world, in other words, the Torah was given in Israel, right? That was the Torah was given in Mount Sinai. And that's where it's called the upper half of the world. That's where people lived. People lived only in the upper part of the world. There were Indians, there were a few people, but etc. Essentially, Torah was revealed only on the upper part of the world. Up there was the idea that there was God, one God. If you look at the Indians, the Mayans, they were nature worshipers. Nothing against them, but that's when the bottom part of the world was the half of the globe where the Torah was not given. Makava Makomo, and he set his place in America. Then he began to purify the bottom part of the world. And namely that there also, for the first time in history, they would hear that there was such a thing as Torah. Right, in the Europe and all these places, at least they knew about Torah. Good, maybe, I mean, it was Christianity's idolatry, but at least they knew that there was such a thing as Torah. They based their religion on the Torah. They messed the whole thing up, and they distorted the laws of the Torah. But at least they brought the idea that the Torah is the source of truth, and also they brought the Torah idea, that there's going to be a person, Moshiach. And Moshiach is going to save the whole world. The lower part of the world, in America and South America and in Canada, there were Indians there, but they had no idea there was such a thing as the Torah. God gave the Torah, the Jewish people, right? They had no idea there was such a thing. When the previous Lubavitcher Rebbe, he went down there to spread the idea of the giving of the Torah down below. True, there were religious Jews, but they kept to themselves. The idea that the Torah is supposed to conquer the whole world, because the Torah belongs to God. God is the creator of the world, to let everyone in the world know what their creator wants from them. That's what the previous Rebbe began when he came down to the lower part of the world, even more. It became the source, that the main spreading out of the Torah came not just to America, but to all of the ends of the world. By means of the shluchim, by means of his representatives, that he sent out to the ends of the world, until the end, the furthest corner of the world, in order to spread Torah and Judaism to all of the Jewish people, especially those people, those Jews who live among Gentiles, and they speak the language of the Gentiles and do the customs of the Gentiles, at least in an external way. So that was the idea where the previous Rebbe set up his headquarters in America, in New York State, in New York City. And this is the main thing: spreading out good, justice, honesty, also being among the non-Jews, and by means of doing the 7 Noahide commandments. Like it says, especially in the last years, as the more that we come closer to the arrival of Moshiach, it says, Az hafok al ha'amim safa berura likros kulam b'shem Hashem la'avdam shechem echad. It says, then I will call all the nations, and they will all call out to God with one nation. This is Tzafania, the prophet Tzafania. That all of the world will call out to the same creator. God is creating them. It says they won't call God in any other names. They won't have any weird rituals and statues and symbols. Everyone in the world will know that there's one God. God is creating them right now. And that this God is the God that created the world, took the Jews out of Egypt, gave them his Torah. And they have 7 Noahide commandments. And the Jewish people have 613 commandments from the Torah. It says then the whole world will be transformed. But the Kufa Acharon on the last, this begins the idea, this is the year of miracles, Tafshin Nun. That was back then 30 years ago. This is drawn down miracles, showing miracles in the whole world. If you remember what happened back then, and this was when suddenly Gorbachev stood up and he said, no more communism. No more communism. There can be private ownership and there can be voting and the borders are going to be open and the government doesn't own everything. And there's not going to be such severe spies and all of a sudden Russia opened up. Then Saddam Hussein, I don't remember which happened first. Saddam Hussein and started shooting these massive missiles that he had planned for a long time. And everyone was afraid, and everybody said there was going to be gas warfare, and biological warfare, and atomic warfare. Nobody knew what was going on. Not atomic warfare. We destroyed their atomic plant. And the Lubavitcher Rebbe said, absolutely nothing is going to happen in Israel. It's the safest place to be. There's not going to be any need for a gas mask. Said you should do what don't make people crazy. If the government tells you to put on gas masks, you can put on gas masks, but you should know you don't need them. And at home, there's not going to be any gas. He was the Lubavitcher Rebbe was the only one in the world that said such a thing, and he advertised it in all the newspapers, advertised it everywhere. And that's exactly what happened. Amazing miracles. He shot 49. I was there. He shot 39 huge missiles. They blew up whole entire buildings, and no one was hurt. No one was hurt. Big buildings. There's a famous picture of a huge apartment, was 5 stories high. It fell down. They have a picture of a guy's head sticking out between 2 huge slabs of concrete. And the concrete just fell in such a way that it didn't touch him at all. He just couldn't move. His head was sticking out, so you could take a picture of it. They moved the concrete, took him to the hospital, checked him over, and he said he's dying from boredom. There must be something broken, a toe, something, nothing. Amazing miracles that happened, incredible. This reached, it says, this, if so now, especially now we can see an amazing thing, that country, Russia, which carved out on its flag and announced a war against spreading out Torah and Judaism, and in effect a war against faith in the Creator. That was a famous thing, Boga Niet. There's no such thing as God. Boga is God, Niet. Umanigo, Kologam, Maasad, that's why they put the previous Lubavitcher Rebbe into prison, because he was spreading out Judaism. How many Hasidim got killed? Because all they were doing was trying to teach Judaism. And after that, because of this, they evicted the previous Rebbe from the country. And it was impossible that when the previous Rebbe left Russia, he wanted to go back to pray at the graves of the previous Rebbes, and he couldn't. Wouldn't let him back in. You couldn't go in. Usually in speaking in Russia, you could go back in. You just could never get out. And it was closed, and all of a sudden, one day, this Gorbachev stood up, and no more Iron Curtain. Nevertheless, not only is Russia allowing Judaism, but they allowed Chabad to come in and spread out Judaism. I don't know if you've ever been there. I was there. There's a huge Chabad synagogue, beautiful synagogue, 4 or 5 stories high, beautiful. It's right opposite the KGB offices, and there are KGB but the guards standing guard so that nothing bad will happen to the Jewish center there. Huge, amazing. The whole thing is just turned over totally. And spreading out Torah, and back then it had to be done in quiet and with tremendous self-sacrifice. Then now there's no more the prohibition of hemshech pulas hafatzas Torah, to spreading out Torah and Judaism. Now they're even encouraging it. The Russian government is even encouraging the spreading of Judaism. They're helping the Chabad houses. Until until the whole entire communistic ideal, it totally fell. And now there's a new government that announced that there's going to be justice and there's going to be honesty and there's going to be peace. Al Yesod Emunah, that there's going to be, and that it's a good thing to believe in God. And to continue this, Be'erev Shabbos, there was in Shabbos a meeting between Maneg Chadash, the new meeting of the new leader of that government. I think that was Gorbachev, and Maneg Shel Medina Zu and Bush. Bishtatfut Shel Od Kama Manigim, and there were a lot of other great leaders of the countries, of the different countries. Shabonit Kablu Achlata, they decided this announcement. V'kitatu Charboteim Le'itim, they will how do you say, pound their swords into plows. Right? Instead of tanks, they'll make tractors. The Yesh Lomar, we can say, because they all met and they announced this move for peace, and it was done where? In the city of the previous Lubavitcher Rebbe, Kavod Kodesh Morichami, Admor, previous Lubavitcher Rebbe Yosef Yitzchak, that this was the city that he decided on, that there was joined all of the leaders of the country, including also the leaders of America, that they had to all come to this city. So this hints at what? Shekol Zebot Totza, this is all because of what? The spreading of the Judaism and the Torah and the justice and honesty in the whole world, which was begun by the previous Lubavitcher Rebbe, that he is the Moshiach of our generation. Again, the picture of the previous Lubavitcher Rebbe. Let's just get this picture over here, just so that everybody knows what we're talking about. Can we make this bigger? Yes, we can. Here we go. Oh. Previous Lubavitcher Rebbe, Rabbi Yosef Yitzchak, passed away in 1950. He is the Moshiach of our generation, Moshiach Shabador. He is the Moshiach of our generation. Human being, Chabad leader, is the Moshiach of the generation. Ba'ad, Sha'al Yadei Shlemos Avoda, and that there will be a completion of this service. And these days will be, the whole world now is Roy. Now the whole world is, how do you say, prepared, umuchshar, and ready. It is appropriate. Litgalo tapuula, the Melech Mashiach, that the Melech Mashiach can now start working on the world. V'shafet bein hagoyim, he says he will judge between the nations. V'ochiach la'amim, and he will, how do you say, reprove? The better word than reprove. He will chastise the world. Rabim bekitu karboteim, they eat him, and they will pound their swords into plows. Gamazaman, also the time. When did it happen? This is the special time when all this should happen. When did it happen? It happened, first of all, the day of the week. It was Friday, right before Shabbos. It was the day that prepares totally for Shabbat. So also this whole entire world is a preparation for the day which is going to be totally Shabbat, the Menucha L'chai Olamim, namely, what it means Shabbat, that there will be Shabbat, resting all of the negative things in the world, including all of the weapons of war from the world. Preparation. And even more, since that we add from the weekday into the holy, right, Friday, you're supposed to take in Shabbat a little bit early. in order to make the mundane holy. So this says that it's compared to like a wolf, that the wolf eats before and afterwards. So also Shabbat. Shabbat grabs some of the time before it, Friday, and it also, you take Shabbat out a little bit late. So it adds on, so Shabbat is like 26 hours long. It's supposed to be 1 hour before, 1 hour. A wolf, it says he grabs a little bit of the time before Shabbat and after Shabbat. This makes, it's already Erev Shabbat. Therefore, now, says the Rebbe, we are right before the future generation, the future redemption. So it says the Rebbe, because we're right before it, so the thing of the future redemption, that's Shabbat, grabs, we can already feel before Shabbat, before the redemption, we can also already feel the redemption is in the air. That's why they met and they decided to stop weapons of destruction. And this is that's from the days of the week. What about the days of the month? The days of the month, they met on the 26th day of the Hebrew month. This is the gematria of Shem Havaya. That's what's going to be this coming Shabbat, right? That's going to. Then they met on the 26th. 26 is the gematria of the name of God. That God, his name implies that he is a mehaveh, he's a creator. This hints at what's going to be in the future world, where everything is going to be created by the fact that God is creating the world, the mehaveh, that he creates the world. This will be recognized by every human being in the world. Like it says, V'nigla kavod havaya, there will be the revealed, the glory of Hashem. Is from Isaiah, right? Let's see, it's this, Isaiah, that's right. Revealed the glory of God. Like it says, there will be revealed the glory of God, and all flesh will see together that it is the mouth of the word of God that's speaking and creating everything. Therefore, there won't be any possibility for negative things. Like it says, lower your there will not be any more harm, or destruction, because the world will be filled with the knowledge of God. Another prophecy of Isaiah, same place. Especially when these two are joined together. The day of the month, the Jewish month, 26th of the month of Shvat, 26th, and when it comes on Friday of the week, Shu B'dugmas, this is going to be like the 6th day of creation. What happened on the 6th day of creation? God created man. This is the main purpose of creation, that man should be created. By means of this, man is able to use his free will and make a renewal, a whole new creation. And especially when the 6th day of creation falls on the 26th day of the month. 26th day of the month, that's the gematria of the name of Yud Kei Vav Kei. 26. This name of God, Yud Kei Vav Kei, is implying Mahaveh, the creator. So this stresses even more that the world is being created all the time by the creator of the world, and everyone will feel it. And the main thing is, there's the Rebbe, the connection to the previous Lubavitcher Rebbe, because it's the last Shabbat in the month of Shvat, which this is the 11th month of the year. Remember, we talked about this last week. The 11th month of the year, the 10th day of this 11th month was the day that the previous Lubavitcher Rebbe passed away. And the next year, on the 11th day of the month, says the Rebbe, I took over, and I'm just a continuation of the previous Rebbe, but even in more power and more energy, until finally this generation will actually be the one where Moshiach and redemption will actually happen. This is the continuation of the 42 years. This is 42 years. Tafshin Nun Beit. This is speaking in 1992. This is 42 years after the previous Rebbe passed away. Right? The speech is being made in 1992. The previous Rebbe passed away in 1950. So that's 1992 is 42 years after 1950. This is 42 years, and says the Rebbe is speaking about himself, that he has been leader. We can say that this corresponds to the 42 journeys that the Jewish people made in the desert. Now, after that, they're all ready to come into the Holy Land in the true, complete redemption. That's also time. The time when, this is the time when it will be announced that all weapons of war will be transformed into weapons of building and construction and production. This is stressed especially by the previous Lubavitcher Rebbe, that he is the Moshiach of our generation, that by means of him was made Kittush Charotem. So therefore, this is all sign of Moshiach. And the Rebbe, and now the Rebbe is not just a smart person that he's saying these things, he's pointing out something to us. The Rebbe is also making it so. He's giving the blessing and making it so that these times, in addition to the importance that they have because of these amazing occurrences, but also these times are times which are seeds opening up the door for Mashiach. We see that it actually happened. There was peace in the world. There was decision. Good, it didn't last that long, but it doesn't make any difference. And it will last. It will be eternal. And the sign that it can be such a thing is that it was there. And even more, says the Rebbe, it was in the city of the previous Rebbe, who was the Mashiach of the generation. And it was in the 11th month, which the Rebbe talked about 11. It was on Erev Shabbos. It was on the 26th day of the Jewish month, which that's the gematria of the Yud Kei Vav Kei. All this hints at the future redemption where the whole world will recognize and feel the Creator. Let's now learn Hayom Yom. It's pretty interesting, if you ask me. I mean, I think it's just amazing, but it's also very, how do you say, frustrating that all this is supposed to be any instant, and we look at the world, but I guess that's the preparation. What can we do? It's like a person saying, you know, he's going to get married and he sends out invitations, but he says, let's look at a day beforehand. Right? Okay, there are two types of statutes that create life and statutes that are created by life. Human laws everywhere are created by life. All the Bibles of the world, all the laws of the world, the constitutions of the world, right? They're created by people. And they created, so it varies from land to land according to the circumstances, right? Different religions, different places, according to the nature of the people that make them. The law of God, the Torah, is a godly law that is not created by life and it's not created by situations. It creates life. It defies all situations and all differences. It's the Torah of truth. It's the same in all places at all times. The Torah is eternal. Have a good day with Moshiach. Now, 3 o'clock, God willing, we're continuing learning the the rest of the laws. Yesterday, we learned like 10 of them, of the 53 laws, which are in this week's Torah portion, packed with amazing, godly will and wisdom. Be with us 3 o'clock today.